All right, welcome everybody to another edition of our podcast and video series. Shane Carter here, Hampshire Capital, along with our VP of Investor Relations, Eddie Austin.
Doing great today, man. How about you?
I am also doing well, man. Enjoying this beautiful warm weather we're having up here in New Hampshire.
Yeah. I don't know about the weather up there, but it's actually trying to rain and pretty hot and humid. But definitely better than the winter.
Yeah. I'll take this any day.
Yeah.
So what are we're talking about today?
Yeah, so we've been talking about the build to rent and how it's changed and these new things coming out and how the economy's kind of changing, the demographics are kind of changing, and renters are, there's more renters now than home buyers. So it's kind of interesting, and you just made a post today on LinkedIn kind of on this subject. So we just felt it'd be a good time to go over some of the metrics, some of the data, and what we're seeing and what we think will continue in the market.
Yeah, that's right. So let's first talk about, what do the numbers look like? And historically, from about 2013, so over the last 10 years or so, from 2013 to 2020, we built on average of about 6,000, maybe 6,500 at most, of build to rent units per year during that time frame, 2013 to 20. Then in COVID, that number shot up to 7,500 units. And then in 2021, that number shot up again to about 10,000 units. And then last year in 2022, we again shot up again to just about 15,000. It was about 14,500 units of BTR housing in the States. And so that's a huge increase. And over the last 3 years, it has more than doubled the pace. And I believe that trajectory is going to continue.
So you said something right there that made me think a minute. Can you imagine the price of 2x4s we paid in the mix to COVID?
It was crazy.
I mean, so that ought to tell you something right there. That means there's a huge need. And they probably they looked at profit margins, but there was such a desire and there was such a need for housing that even though the cost went way up, they still built.
That's right. Yeah, because of the demand. And so, those are big jumps. But if you look at it in the context of, okay, well, how much multifamily housing do we build on an annual basis? It's a crazy number. It's more like 450,000 units per year of multifamily housing that we produce. So right now, looking back at 2022, we built 450,000 multifamily units, only 14,500 built to rent. So it's still a very small percentage, right? I think we did the math. I think it's like 3% of the market share. So it's still a very small percentage of the overall market share of multifamily housing, and for that reason alone, I believe that trend's going to continue. We'll talk about some of the macro economic conditions that are driving it as well, and societal conditions. But the reality is, it's been sort of off the radar, and then suddenly now everybody's talking about it, and it's on the radar, and it's a big thing in commercial real estate. It's the hot topic for a lot of REITs and for a lot of large developers. Build to rent communities are a thing now, and there's a pipeline of about, I think, 44,000 units that are permitted or underway as of right now, as we speak, mid 23. Again, they're not all going to come to fruition this year. That's we're looking years out now. So there is that number of production per year is going to continue to climb and climb and climb.
Well, I can definitely say, so I'm very active in the real estate fund world and in funds in general. And I have seen quite a bit of operators that went from, just the mom and pop shop and working with their own money and stuff like that, to seeing these real estate funds that's been put together for the sole purpose of build to rent. And so that tells me that they're really looking to scale. If they're starting to fund these construction build to rent deals, then they're really, they're taking down bigger chunks of land. They're committing to more construction. They're committing to more growth over a period of time. So when I seen that start to happen, I started to look at it a little bit more. And then when I looked at like Grow Capitus, he's got several funds that are all built to rent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And there's a reason. There's a reason is that it's a burgeoning trend. And if you get in at the beginning of a trend, you generally do well as opposed to coming on the tail end. And there's some good margins, especially if you're obviously on the, land development through the development cycle. There's solid margins to be had in that asset class. And even if you're buying a stabilized product, like a lot of the larger institutions are, they know that that's a burgeoning trend. And that's why you see the Blackstones of the world investing in that niche of the asset class at this time.
Yep.
Because they know it's a great hedge. It's a great flight to safety and quality. And it's also a burgeoning trend within the rental market of, residential housing rentals.
Yeah.
So let's talk. So those are the numbers, and that's what we've been doing. So let's talk about, why is this happening? Why? What do we have? What are the market conditions that we have that are causing people to want to live in for rent housing? And some of these are townhomes, some of these are single family detached homes. But why are more and more and more families and households in America choosing that product versus buying a home or versus renting in an apartment community?
Well, look at where we come from, and housing prices recently during the last, short cycle of, the fake pump of appreciation is what I like to call it. But home prices went through the roof.
Yeah.
And then right after home prices went through the roof, they're slowly dropping back down. But now we have interest rates up so high. So now, not only did we have the price tags were higher that brought down affordability, now we even have interest rates, plus we have the house price. So not only are we paying more, and there's interest rates are more for the mortgage. So yeah, I think generally speaking, the affordability for the general buyer has dropped tremendously.
It has. We're in an affordability crisis, as we call it, right? And you're absolutely right, Eddie. There's never been a worse affordability issue with housing in America. Pricing has gone through the roof. The cost of money has gone through the roof. And so you have this great gap now where the huge chunks of the population just simply can't afford to buy a new home or an existing home even. All of that pricing has gone through the roof. So that's a big part of the equation as to why more and more people are choosing to rent. There's even an interesting component of, and this is, you see a lot in the younger generations as well. And part of this is, because of the conditions we find ourselves in. And part of it is because, just having a more free and open lifestyle, right? If you buy a home and you're locked into an ownership of a home and you just sign your name on a 30-year mortgage, you're pretty much committed to staying there for a while, even though on average, Americans only stay in their house, I think 7 or 8 years, but still you're sort of, you're planting roots. You're setting up shop for a while there. And, there's a certain thought process out there amongst, certainly younger and I think even the older generation too, that say, hey, wait a minute, I don't want to be tied down. This is my life, right? I want to have freedom. And what if I get a job in Jacksonville, Florida, or in Dallas, Texas, or let's just say I want to go to Austin because it's an amazing place to be, or I want to go to California, or I want to go here, or I want to go wherever I want to go. I want that freedom. And so I'd rather rent and have freedom of choice in my future. Yes, I just signed a lease, but it's relatively short. It's 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. And, and then I can move on from there if I need to or want to. And there's also this interesting contingency of folks who have done the analysis of, well, what's the total cost of ownership from a home? It's not just your mortgage and your insurance, but you got taxes, and then you've got your to use a multifamily term, you've got your repairs and maintenance, you've got your upkeep, you've got your your lawn care. You've got, if you live up north like I do, right, you've got snow plowing. You've got all kinds of things that are an additional cost to owning a home versus you rent. That's pretty fixed. You know what that monthly expenditure is. And, if there's a delta between the two, what if you took that delta and just invested it? And what would that arbitrage create for you in terms of future freedom and investing more now as opposed to investing in that, equity in your home? So, look, there's something to that. There's nothing wrong with that thought process. And for folks who want that lifestyle, I think that's a component of why we're seeing more of this BTR as a burgeoning asset class.
Well, my wife Jennifer, when we wrote our PPM in 2020, she wrote a piece in there for why multifamily. And she was currently a real estate broker, and she was selling homes and, getting homes to new buyers and everything. And she had adapted this thought process because she was listening to her buyers and her sellers. And there was also a piece that the younger generation, they want a lot more of their time. So they don't want to have to be involved in the maintenance aspect of the home. And also there's a lower living budget that people have for emergencies. And, when you buy a home, if something happens to the roof, that's an expense that not many people want to cover anymore. And the hot water heater and, something else goes wrong in the home, maybe a water line breaks. Those are all costs that most people don't want to deal with. So by living in this build to rent community, those are things that they don't have to mow the grass unless it's something in their lease or something, but they can hire that out. If the water line breaks, it's somebody else's problem.
That's right. That's exactly right. And that's a huge benefit. And then I think the other component here that we have to talk about is the whole work from home movement. And so you have, a lot of households and a lot of folks who are already renting, but are in apartment communities. They're selecting more for a BTR community, whether it's townhomes or single family detached, because it gives them more space. And they might be able to have that little bit of private yard space or their own space there. But then the home itself is a little bit more spacious, but they're still renting and they have all the benefits that you just outlined in terms of, not needing to worry about maintenance and upkeep. But it has just that little bit of extra space where now they can have that home office. They can do work from home and not feel like they're super cramped in a little, 1 or 2 bedroom apartment in a community. So I think all of those things are important aspects of this trend.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. And to go along with that, again, I think affordability, like you said, it's got to a place where most people they won't bite the bullet. They won't pay more for the home. They're probably afraid of the home value not being there when they go to sell it or move to another state. I mean, it's a 30-year mortgage. You could probably refinance, but what's going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years? Maybe they go to refinance and the home value's dropped. Now, they're in a situation where the mortgage company says no, or there's more restraints on the loan and where they say, no, you can't refinance. It's your income has dropped or your credit score has dropped and it's even going to be more. It's just a lot of unknowns. And I think where people just have more boxes to check off as cons as living in a rental.
That's right.
Especially in like a condo or a bigger apartment complex that have bigger floor plans. And think about the amenities. To buy a house with a pool is a lot of money, and a lot of upkeep. So why wouldn't you rent an apartment that has a community pool or a build to rent community that has a pool?
That's right. Exactly. You see a lot of these BTR communities and there's a clubhouse, there's, a game space, there's gathering rooms, there's pools, there's pickleball courts, there are all kinds of great outdoor areas. There's dog parks, there's kids playgrounds, and every individual person in or household doesn't have to have their own multiple $1,000 playground for their kid. Or for their kids. There's a playground there, and then all the kids get to go play there, and it's just a better community feel too. And so, for a lot of these reasons, I think, we are becoming a renter nation. And
Oh yeah,
that trend's
yeah,
going to continue in the build for rent communities, whether it's detached or attached. I think we're going to see more and more and more of that in the coming years. And it's going to continue to gain market share within the multifamily world.
yep. I just remembered this. I had a guy call me, I think it was 2 weeks ago. He said, Eddie, I know you do the real estate fund thing and everything else, but I predominantly was a fix and flipper.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about now hanging on to these. Would you recommend that I would start a fund and I could still buy these houses and fix them, but I won't sell them?
Right.
I'll just hang on to them. So, and I thought, wow. So even a fix and flipper is thinking about switching to a rental model, probably because his sales aren't happening as much. If he's flipping 25 homes a year and he's not selling but 2 or 3 of them, he's hanging on to them for the books.
Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Excellent. Anything else you want to talk with? I think we did a great job of covering, I think, some of the basics of build to rent and why we see this as a burgeoning trend. Anything else you want to go over on this? Or
No, man, I think we hit everything.
we got it.
And I think definitely is we are becoming a rental nation.
Yeah,
sure.
we are.
I think all the indicators are there. And as always, guys, if there's something you want us to talk about, if there's any subjects you want us to go more in depth on, by all means, please reach out to us, leave a comment in the video, and please like and subscribe as it helps grow the channel. Mm-hmm. And we look forward to speaking to you next time. And it's been a joyful day today to talk about the build to rent community and where we're headed.
That's right. As always, Eddie, thank you. We'll see you on the next one.
Yes, absolutely.